Thank you so much, ma'am, for that.
Okay. Very good afternoon to everyone. I'm really happy to invite Raman. Raman has done MA from the department, also a rare combination that he has done MPhil also. And PhD we will be submitting very fast now. Very happy to have him, and his PhD topic is titled Caste in Contemporary India, Valmikis of Haryana and Delhi. We will be speaking for around 40 to 45 minutes, then we will discuss this work. Welcome everyone.
Hello everyone, I'm Raman. I guess all of you know me so. Today I'll be presenting my work, what I have done in last few years. This is what I have started with. Today I'll be talking about Caste in Contemporary India, Valmikis of Haryana and Delhi. This is the project I started with. That's the aim of my aim of my research was to see how Dalit people carry their identity from the rural areas to the urban areas after getting education and the job opportunities, and how do they navigate the Dalit identity within work sphere, everyday routine and everything. So first of all, I'm so glad to see you all here, it's such a crowd, so I'm so happy to have, and thank you so much Anuja ma'am for dispersing the class. So today's focus gonna be the digital research. There's one chapter, the digital Dalit, which I have the part of my thesis, and I'm very it's a surprise for Dr. Sunil that it is slated to be published soon by Springers. It's selected for the Springers, so I'm happy about it. And so the first thing I would like to mention that our research is like a living organism. It grows and modifies as you move forward with the literature, discussion, experience, and the field experience, the field things you get to know about the things. So how I started my project, Valmikis of Haryana and Delhi to the locating caste in urban spaces. In the beginning I was looking at rural to in the urban spaces, but then during my RAC, my supervisor advisor, we decided not to move into the two different spaces altogether, going to check rural then to the urban. So we decided to fix on the one area, that's urban sphere, how Dalits navigate their identity in urban sphere, and defining the space. So during that time we defined the space that will go through only the urban areas and will look over the rural areas in the later period. Then the measuring lens. For me, my lens for my research was caste, and caste specifically the population was Valmiki community, the particular Valmiki community, and the question arises here while I was navigating my research idea, why Valmiki community? Why not when I am saying that it's the digital Dalit, when I'm saying the Dalit community, why I'm specifically concentrating on Valmiki community? So Valmikis are the only community whose large proportions are still engaged in caste specified occupations, or we can also put it in a manner that according to the statistical data in NDMC, more than 90% of the population who are working as sanitation and cleaning department sphere, they are coming from the same community, the Valmiki community. Other than that, Valmiki, also called as Bhangi, Chuda, has been synonymized with the people who deals with waste in Indian society, and it has become a social identity over the time. Whenever we see anyone who is taking a garbage, or by default that person is coming from the Valmiki community, Chuda, Bhangi, whatever you, regional differences, whatever you call them. And then choosing the field. So I have done 18 months of participant observation in a Valmiki community, and the interesting part about this particular setup was that it was not something which was based on the specific caste, that some particular area is dedicated to some particular caste, but these people are the workers of NDMC, New Delhi Municipal Corporation. These are people who are working in government jobs. So when we are seeing any government sector, so we see people are coming from different communities participating in that particular work sphere. But when we are talking about the cleaning and sanitation department, this whole flats which were given to the people, they are coming from the Valmiki. There were 400 families, 400 quarters which were only given to the Valmiki community, because the department was compiled by the Valmikis only. And this my field, it is the center of a metropolitan city. When we see urban sector, we go to the urban areas for the anonymity, for the job opportunities, for the education. But these people, they come to Delhi 5 generations back when the MCD formed in late 1880s. So they came for the work, but they were not seen as the workers, but there is the cleaning department people who can be worked as the sanitation department. That's how it started. So my field is like these people are staying there from last 5 generations. The whole Valmiki bastis in the Delhi, who has been like migrated from this particular area. It's the center of Delhi. Then I haven't decided my title yet. Today we'll work with the ethnographic study of Dalits. It's an ethnographic led work. I have 2 chapters which is comprising of the ethnographic ways in various manners. So I have 2 introduction and conclusion, and I have 4 main chapters. The first chapter is Caste in India, Inception and Discussion. This chapter talks about caste, the various theories about caste, how it came up, how the Brahminical structure came up, Brahma and the four categories. And also the main discussion here goes with in the time when we had the first census, 1881, when these Britishers, they started collecting data for the population who were residing nearby Delhi. 1857 Delhi was taken by the Britishers. After that the Delhi was divided in 2 parts. The Rahis, Delhi wala people and the Britishers. So they wanted someone to clean their lanes, their washrooms and everything. So then how in that particular genre, when this particular identity, they were earlier also working for the upper caste, Bhangis, but after this census, this particular category came into the official data as NDMC workers, MCD workers, and since then they have been continuously working in that sense. So this is the discussion in the first chapter. The second chapter talks about caste as a subject of study. In the later 1970s, when the Dalit autobiographies came up, and in the 21st century when we have a new discussion about civic sense, public sphere, different caste, same caste living together. So this chapter 2 talks about the subject of caste as a subject of study in various manners, where you will notice the most of the discussions are about Dalits in one or the another manner. We are not talking about the upper caste and other privileges. So that's how caste is a subject of study, and that's specifically dedicated to Dalits. Then the third chapter, what it means to be Dalit, the Dalithood. This chapter is my fieldwork experience, my participant observation. I have spent 18 months. Then from this chapter, I'll tell you later how I reached to the digital portion from the physical field. The fourth chapter, which I'll be discussing today, the digital Dalit, representation and reproduction of identity in virtual social space. In this chapter, I'm seeing how over the period of time in the 21st century, how when Dalits used to in the 1900 people were used to navigate and hide their Dalit identity, but how come in the digital space this has come to the assertion and the pride. The stigma and the navigation has changed to the assertion and the pride. And this will be the discussion of this chapter, and then to the conclusion. So how I have reached to the digital space. When I was in the my physical field at the Valmiki Southern, that's how I categorized the population in this brackets of 15 years each. 15 to 30, 30 to 45, these are the people how I have categorized the whole Valmiki Southern. This the first category is 60 plus, the people who has been retired, but these are the people who have been worked their whole life as NDMC workers, as the sanitation department, the cleaning wherever, in CP or in some offices or somewhere. These are these population. These are retired employees, and they are still living in that particular community on the rent. Maybe they have some jhugis on the terrace, so they are still living there, and their So I have this table says like experience of caste and understanding of caste. This is very penetrable. This is not a very solid. They have like across the table, but still that's how I make it simple for me. Their experience of caste is very basic and their lived experience. When they were doing their jobs, the caste and the stigma was very much connected. So their experience is coming up with the basic form of the lived experience of caste, and that's how their understanding of caste is also in the acceptance of form, acceptance in the rudimentary form. They accept caste, whatever dominant caste is saying, like tum chude ho, tum Valmiki, they're going to accept in that manner. Whereas the second category, that's 45 to 60, these are the last generation of people who are permanent employees. So after 2004 or so, there is no permanent vacancies in the NDMC. Now they say RMR or the parchi aati hai, they have the contractual jobs. So this generation is the last generation who are staying there, they're having quarters there, they're living there. Their experience of caste has changed with like stigma, with change and acceptance. That's how like they were not asserting it, this category of people. They were navigating, they were hiding. We had this many studies in the late 90s period when people were like pseudonyms, not using their real surnames. The assertion of the Dalit identity was not in that form. When we coming to the third category, that's 30 to 45, these, the young people, we can say, these are the contractual workers. These people are working on the contracts. They don't have any quarters or anything. They are staying with their brothers, fathers who are working. It might be like there are 7 people in the family, only one person having the permanent job and the whole family staying there. And same goes like if they are residing like this retired people, when they don't have the family who are having the permanent job, these people are staying on the rent in jhugis they having on the terrace, but still they are ghettoized in that particular area. The last, the 32, I'm still analyzing, they have this job insecurity, they are uneducated, they don't have permanent jobs. Still their assertion you can see in the physical space. From this category to this, it has changed. These young people, they have this assertion, at least in the physical space, which we can see. And the fourth category, 15 to 30, these people, they don't have the caste experience as their earlier generations. So their sense of, and they are mostly students, some people whose fathers or the forefathers had some permanent jobs, and so they are trying to get them educated. And there are also some people who are still going for some, if not in the petty, not in the NDMC, they are going outside for some petty jobs in some offices as PN or something. Their assertiveness is it's related to less of caste occupation. These people, they don't feel like we are Valmikis, so we have to do this particular work. This is new kind of understanding that's coming out. And their understanding of caste is coming, as I said, this is the caste identity as a pride. हाँ, मैं वाल्मीकि हूँ, मैं चूड़ा हूँ, या चमार हूँ. That's coming as a pride. And that's what I'm going to discuss today, like how caste is showing up in the 21st century. This is the topic of the center of the discussion today. So after like analyzing this particular category 15 to 30, I decided, so how to get to know these people. I get to connect with them on my Instagram. Then I started getting some more following accounts and followers. Then I get to some more reels about the caste. Then I started thinking to work in the digital sphere, how it connected. And the main and the best part about the three things about good things about digital ethnography is like it's not static in nature. You are always present in the, like I use Instagram, it's always, my field is on my hand always, like whenever I want it. The second part is, I can give you a peek into my field. I have been to my physical field, I can't tell you how it looked, I can tell you but I can't show you. But when I'm talking about digital ethnography, I'll give you a peek, like if I have analyzed thousands of reels, how I have done it, I have set the pattern, how I have analyzed it. So I'm trying to make that out of it. So, starting with the chapter, the digital Dalit, representation and reproduction of identity in virtual social space. It says, Indian society in 21st century is at its peak of showcasing prospects of caste as omnipresent and glittered with the sense of belongingness, backed not only by society in general, but also has entered the digital sphere. This assertion of caste identity in digital realm by Dalits have finished the project of caste in 21st century. This suggests caste is not going to be Caste is going to be here for a long time. This project seeks to delineate Indian society in the 21st century through the lens of caste, understood as one of the foundational unit of social division. While caste has historically been embedded within religious, social and economic structures, in contemporary India it has extended beyond these boundaries, adapting to new terrains shaped by technological advancement, affirmative action and the digital media. Social media in particular has emerged as a crucial site where caste is not only reproduced but also reconfigured, taking on forms that are distinctly tailored to the internet age, where anonymity, visibility and networked interaction reshape caste-based assertion and discrimination. Thus, identity assertion has chose new space for assertion with safety, protection and anonymity of some kind. Digital space has become a feat of Dalit assertion, providing multiple fracture in appropriation of Dalit identity in flux. And the digital Dalit, it's a kind of imaginary identity. It is reinforcement of caste and not annihilation. In other words, assertion may resist caste, but it also reproduces it. Caste operates as a system of symbolic and representational control, shaping not only material conditions but also identity. Dignity and recognition. The assertion of caste identity therefore is not merely about social positioning but also reclaiming symbolic space within a structure that has historically denied it. However, such assertion remain constrained by broader Brahmanical norms. Even as caste identities are reconfigured, their structural effect remains unevenly distributed. The persistence of such inequalities underscores the limit of superficial transformation that do not address the foundational mechanism of caste system. The first section talks about digital life and the transformation of digital practices. It is this section is divided as digitization as of everyday life, interconnectedness between digital and the physical realm, shifts in the academic practices like digital tools we are using, and the experimental sociological orientation. This says the growing digitization of daily life has altered both the experience of research participants and the methodologies of researchers, as noted by Deborah Lipton. She notes that both subjects and researchers are increasingly digitized and integrated inside data-driven system. Deborah Lipton has significantly influenced scholarly perspective on online cultures, technology and commonplace digital practices through her contribution to digital sociology and social anthropology, and specifically digital ethnography. Digital ethnography is unequivocally an extension of traditional ethnography into digital domain. It involves the analysis of human relationships, communication and meaning construction enabled by digital technologies such as social media applications and online platforms. The primary assertion is that digital ethnography encompasses not only the examination of online settings but also the exploration of the interconnections between the digital and physical realm. When I am talking about the digital realm, it's not something in vacuum, but it is also connected to the physical realm, which is it is taking further to the digital realm. In contemporary culture, where media can render phenomena more authentic than they truly are, or what Baudrillard calls hyper-reality, Lipton asserts that digital existence and physical existence are inseparable. Somewhere they are getting connected, how you feel physically and how you show yourself they are not inseparable in nature. Her research investigates the impact of social media interaction on the formation of real world identities and relationships, as well as the influence of health application on bodily practice and self-care routine. That's how Deborah Lipton, she worked on it. In alignment with the same perspective, she emphasizes the reflexivity of the researcher by contextualizing them within the digital sphere, and the autoethnography is critical as the researcher's positionality holds substantial importance in social research. It examines the power dynamics between the researcher and participant, along with the ethical responsibilities in online context. She emphasizes ethical concerns such as privacy and consent in online research, the indistinct boundaries between public and private data, and the challenges associated with the accessibility of public data. I can scroll any rail at any point of time, but which is public, which I can use, which I can't, which is private. So that's also a thing. So digital ethnography emphasizes the observation of online communities encompassing forums and social media groups participating in digital interaction as both a perceived insider and outsider. Like while I was in physical field, I was working as an insider. I was talking to them. My positionality, my work was affecting that. But during my digital field, I was working as an outsider. I was not interacting with them. I was using the unobtrusive participant observation, where I was analyzing what kind of content they are producing, what kind of comments, number of likes. I have used qualitative and quantitative methods. I'll show you later. Then also I'm using experimental sociological orientation, where methods and theoretical approaches are continuously adopted in response to the evolving empirical realities. Like when I started my project, I never imagined that I'll go and lead to the digital field. So during my physical field, when I get to know, so my research is on in going to the field, getting to know about particular category, reading about that, then going to the next field, getting what exactly that's happening in that sphere. Research and ethnography is a process from ethnographic field to the digital realm. How I have reached exactly. So during my ethnographic field work, I encountered the idea of analyzing youth not only through participant observation but also through digital ethnography. Social media has enabled Dalit youth to express themselves and assert their identities in the digital public sphere by youth culture. Nevertheless, this newfound assertion of Dalit identity has also led to reinforcement of caste categories and pride, rather than a dismantling of the caste system. This study, especially this chapter of the thesis, posits that the rise of social media among youth has fostered a new form of Dalit identity assertion. By employing digital ethnography, this research investigates how Dalit youth leverage social media platforms, particularly Instagram. Dalit youth leverage social media platforms, particularly Instagram, to articulate their identities through music, dialogues, reel performances. And though all social media platforms are to be analyzed to have comprehensive understanding, the study analyzes only Instagram, because like I find that youth are very much more into the Instagram than other social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and focusing only on one social media platform would be possible, since like PhD is a time bound and I'm also already running out of time. So and this chapter advances digital ethnography. So when I'm talking about digital ethnography, it's not just a tool I'm using, it's a medium in itself which I'm going to analyze. Like the physical field, we don't see it as a tool. It's a kind of methodological tool which I'm using to as a mode of knowing that enables the researchers to access dimensions of social life that may otherwise remain obscured. As Sarah Pink in 2001, she writes, argues that a digital perspective enables us to see things that would otherwise have been invisible. As it is indicated in the contemporary scenario, social life is increasingly mediated through complex mode of digital representation, requiring an analytical approach that accounts for how realities are constructed, experienced, and circulated across platforms. Digital environments are not passive space of reflection, but active sites where meanings, identities, and social relations are continuously produced. Importantly, this approach recognizes that ethnography itself is not static in nature. As I mentioned earlier, like I'm always on the field if I'm in the digital field for that matter. As Sarah Pink notes, within same discussion on visual culture, like ethnography, that it will be never be completed or concluded. Like I used 3 hashtags, hashtag Chamar, hashtag Jatav, and hashtag Valmiki. 1 month back when I checked hashtag Chamar, there were 1.5 million hits for that. After like yesterday I was checking it, it was 1.6 million. So it's not static in nature. Whenever you're going back to the field, there will be changing scenarios within a very short period of time. I talked about, like, I'm not collecting images or videos, just I'm seeing how it is making meaning out of those processes and interpretation out of those ethnographic work. Then moving to the next thing, visual ethnography and the changing frame of reference. This chapter is informed by visual ethnography, which emphasizes attention to the visual dimension of social life, including bodies, performances, material objects and technological interface. As Sarah Pink notes, visual ethnography is not limited to the study of images, but involves understanding how meaning is generated through visual practices and cultural forms. In this context of digital platforms such as Instagram, visual content, particularly reels, serves as a key medium through which caste identities are articulated and performed. These visual forms are not, like, as I described, merely representation, but are active process making, meaning making process. So this, when we're talking about the digital space, it has changed the. Earlier it was the alternative media, when we had news channels, some YouTube channels, Dalit, Haryana and other YouTube channels. It was not changing this. It was not creating the self-created identity. The cinema, for that matter, it was created by the upper caste. But this digital medium is providing, like, from victimhood to agency, invisibility to hyper visibility, and imposed identities to the self-defined identities, where they are creating their own histories. If I'm saying that I'm a Valmiki, I have many things to being proud of that particular community, rather than being saved by some dominant caste or something like that. Digital public sphere and ethical consideration. So this is the like very complex part, where how will you choose which is public for you, what can you use for that. Like you can't simply analyze a simple Instagram profile and like without even permissions, and how many permissions will you get for that. So getting over with that, like digital public sphere and ethical consideration. Within digital ethnography, accessibility of content does not automatically determine whether a space is public or private. This study addresses this concern by focusing exclusively on publicly available Instagram reels that are explicitly designed for viewership and circulation. These include forms of content that are open for remixing, reuse of audio and sharing. Like these are the features that are that indicates an intention for broader dissemination. For instance, in many cases, content creators explicitly encourage viewers to share or reuse their material, suggesting as a desire to expand reach. Such features indicate that these materials are produced within an orientation towards a broader audience, situating them within a participatory digital public sphere. With this consideration and ethical positioning of the researcher, the data analyzed on Instagram exists within a participatory oriented digital public sphere. At the same time, the study remains attentive to the layered and the complex nature of digital interaction. Like when I was on the field, physical field for that matter, I was talking to one person. I might be knowing about his family, her family, or the neighbors. But when we are talking about the digital field, when you go to one reel, it can be dispersed and diverse in nature, regional basis, caste basis, it can be anti in nature. So that makes it very complex nature of digital interaction. Unlike, for example, unlike bounded offline research field sites, digital environments generates multi-sited engagements where a single post connects diverse and dispersed audience. Each interaction extends beyond the immediate creator, producing a network field of meaning and interpretations. And there is this book, Dalits in the New Millennium. It's an edited book which talks about there are many people who have written about caste in the new millennium. So here Savdesh Singh, it was published in 2033. He writes about alternative media like YouTube channels like Dalit Dastaks, and then the discussion gets over at the YouTube channels or some alternative media news channels. But this chapter on the digital Dalit departs from this juncture analyzing caste on social media with digital ethnography. At the same time, this chapter critically engages with the central tension. On one hand, digital assertion challenges caste hierarchy, and yet it often operates through caste-based pride and identification. This generates a paradox wherein opposition to caste functions through caste itself, while resistance concurrently redefines caste identity in novel manifestation. This study considers this as essential for comprehending contemporary digital Dalit digital practices. The methodological frameworks remain attentive to an important contradiction. On one hand, digital assertion enables dignity, pride and self-respect, whereas on the other hand, it also reinforces caste boundaries through strong caste identity markers. This will help in problematizing the future of caste, whether digital assertion leads to annihilation of caste or to its reconfiguration within new symbolic forms and understanding of caste. In this manner, the analysis moves beyond celebratory accounts of digital empowerment and instead adopts a critical ethnographic stance. But it is to be noted that important intervention of this study is to maintain a clear analytical distinction between caste and class. So I'm taking caste as the analytical factor. In many discussions, caste is often diluted into class-based explanation. However, this research explicitly foregrounds caste as a structuring principle of identity and experience in Indian context, which is certainly not away from the material or ontological position of classical Marxism. Alternative media to the digital assertion, how people are reconfiguring Dalithood from being not visible to the hyper visibility, from victimhood to the self created identities. And these new digital assertion, it is not mere presentation from others. This is self representation they are telling themselves. And this is also creating a new anti-caste cultural production in the digital sphere. Coming to the digital Dalit, how I have creating it as a conceptual engagement. This chapter presents the concept of digital Dalit to characterize a new generation of Dalit individuals who utilize digital platforms for self-expression, engage in both autonomous and collective identity formation, and partake in decentralized cultural production and resistance against the caste system. This category signifies a transition from collective and movement-oriented assertion to individualized, networked and performative assertion. However, this operates within the constraints of Brahmanical norms and platform algorithms. This chapter examines whether digital practices contribute to the protracted struggle for the eradication of caste, what type of egalitarian futures are being envisioned. A key methodological concern of this study is to trace how digital media reconfigures Dalit identity. Rather than treating Dalits as a homogeneous identity, as often done in mainstream discourse, this research attends to the internal differentiation, caste-specific assertion and localized identity markers. This also aligns with the Singh's critique that Dalits are often represented as a monolithic category, ignoring internal diversity. So for the digital research, this study has chosen three castes within the Dalit identities such as Jatav and Chamar, which are often used for the same caste in different regions, and Valmikis, but not as a Dalit whole. When I am looking at the digital sphere, I am defining caste specific assertion with Valmiki, Jatav and Chamar, how they are asserting caste identity in them. Mediating identity across communities and analytical focus. So, since the previous chapter examining caste is in my participant observation, it was lived, embodied and spatially regulated within the everyday life of Valmiki community. This particular chapter extends the analysis into the digital realm, asking how caste identity and assertions are reconfigured when they move from physical space of control into networked space of visibility. I'll be using these four senses to understand, visual discourse online, which will examining how caste identities are represented, symbolized and communicated through reels, images and audio visual content. The sense of assertion is like analyzing how expression of pride, dignity and resistance are articulated in digital performances. Rise and expansion of Dalit identity, tracing how digital platforms have enabled wider circulation and normalization of Dalit identity in public discourse. And the last, quality and the nature of self-assertion, interrogating whether these assertion challenges the caste hierarchies or consolidated caste identities in new forms. Then talking about the theoretical framework, these are the things I'll be seeing, like digital materiality of caste and shifting identity practices. This research suggests that caste in the contemporary form must be understood through its digital materiality. That is how caste is not only socially embedded but also mediated, circulated and reconstituted through digital infrastructures. The logic of inquiry, this research uses inductive iterative approach where analytical categories are interpretation evolve alongside the research process rather than being predestined. Like when I started, I was trying to see how caste works in contemporary India with the particular Valmiki communities, but now I'm seeing particular age group in particular field. So this helped my study to be responsive with emerging patterns on the field. This chapter emerged after pursuing participant observation on field. Analyzing caste digitally was not predetermined in the beginning of my research. The iterative inductive approach is qualitative research methodology and logic of inquiry that integrates cyclical repetitive analysis with a bottom-up data-driven theory development process or inductive logic as its primary analysis, and further lead to checking the previous theories as well as a new posterior developed from first round inductive analysis. Methodological orientation. This research employs qualitative content analysis of publicly available Instagram reels combined with unobtrusive observation of digital interactions. The aim is to capture the meaning making process through which caste identity is articulated and negotiated through ethnography of the virtual. This does not entail absolute departure from traditional ways of doing ethnography, but amalgamation of new methods of doing ethnography. Following insights from critical digital ethnography, the study pays close attention to how self-identity is formed, structured and performed on digital platforms. Then how it has created multi-sided field and the meaning making process and the methodology reflexivity. The research tools and the methods of data collection. So I have used, as I said, 3 hashtags: Valmiki, Chamar and Jatav, and collection of visual materials through reels and screenshots, mapping patterns through word cloud, through using different digital tools, and contextual reading of captions, comments and insights matrix. Limitation, like I'll be using just one platform, Instagram. Algorithmic influence, what kind of content I'm seeing. Observational distance, I'm not very much interacting with them everyday routine as I did on physical field. And unobtrusive participation, which limits the direct engagement. So this is, as I said, how I have analyzed the digital field. This is the first thing, like visual discourse online, ways of analysis. I have analyze the data, the visual data, by compiling this digital Dalit. As I said, I'll give you a peek into my field and I'll show you this later. The tone of online content, what kind of songs they are producing, what kind of language they are producing. Then pride is coming. These are the section I have made in this compilation, the kind of patterns I'm looking at, the assertion. And this is the conceptual category I'm creating. Getting back to the scraping, how to use like the tools I have used. The first thing I used, I scraped these 3 hashtags: Jatav, Chamar and Valmiki. I have made 700 each for each hashtag. I have scrolled 700 to 1000 reels to analyze those things. And like this is the body, the author, and this is I have also other files which have like number of likes, number of counts. for Valmiki, and then I generated it. I have not made it. It is like the Excel sheets. I use these Excel sheets. I use this extension GSchumer, which help you to scrape Instagram data, reels, posts, everything, and then you'll get it in ND-JSON form, and you can convert it into the Excel file, and the whole data, everything, caption, number of likes, body, who, from where it has been posted, or everything, you'll get the data. Then using the another tool, when you put this whole words, what kind of, like, if I'm gonna read the 700 captions and number of counts, it's gonna take a lot of time. So I used this word cloud, which shows what kind of discussion is going around. When we talk about, when I use Jato, hashtag Jato, the main discussion is around the Jato brand, Jato viral video, but you can see somewhere Valmiki is also coming. There was discussion, Bhaichara is coming. Then you'll see somewhere Chamar is coming. So discussion, Jato swag, Jai Bhim. So there are different kind of things. It's not just when we're talking about identity assertion, it's when we talk about Jato, it's not just Jato. They're also navigating the algorithm, the platforms, because you'll say trending songs, new, Insta good. These are just to navigate the digital field, also to get on the top, but also this shows like what kind of discussion in the digital sphere is going when we talk about Jato. Same goes for Chamar, and here, like, you can see it has crossed the gendered notion, like Chamarji, Chamaran, but you can see Chamaranji. Lipstick, my new look, kiss proof. So they are not only just asserting themselves, but they are also navigating the digital field. And it's not just, and when we talk about Chamars, it's just not Chamars. You can see Jatavni, Jato, Jai Bhim. Bhim is the center of discussion for all the session. Insta good, lipstick. So Chamar regiment. And you can see also, like I'm working in the northern area, you can see Ravidas religion, because you'll see Chamars, Jatos call themselves Ravidasiya. So this is also somewhere part of the discussion. Chamar Sahab and other things. And same like when I was Valmiki, and the same, like, you can see brand, Samaj, respect, Rutba, that's what they are asserting themselves into. So talking about that, yeah. So hashtag Jato Instagram shows 1.5 million posts. Chamar is at 5,78,000, and for Valmikis it was 3,50,000. These are followed by other using same kind of hashtags. It's just not like hashtag Jato. Different kind of discussions are coming for. So they're like hashtags. Jato brand 1,44,000, Jato King 1,35,000, Valmikis on top, Valmiki Samaj, Valmiki Nagar, and there are different kinds of discussion you'll see. And coming to the visual discourse, after getting to that, like, I have this qualitative data, this kind of discussion is going through, but now I have to discuss it visually. I have to, like, I was interpreting this. So for this I would like to show you this thing. So this is how I'm trying to give you a peek into my field, and this is the advantage of digital, that I can bring my field to the presentation. So please.
Are you guys aware of the caste system in India? क्या नाम है आपका? मंजीत. कौन से जात के हो? I beat a little bit. बहुत caste. So I named him ChatGPT. And then she goes, क्या नाम है आपका? I'm like, Manjeet. She goes, और? I'm like, I know this. It's a classic one. Guess what, सरकार? कौन से जात के हो? I beat a little bit.
और एक आखिरी सवाल पूछना है। भाई पूछो तो से ਅਸੀਂ ਚਾਹਤਾਂ ਭਾਜੀ ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਕੁਝ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਭਾਜੀ ਅਸੀਂ
You misgender them, they get really angry. And like, uncle, तू ब्राह्मण है, मैं तो को चमार बोलूंगा ना.
बंद करे इन्हें पूरे ਨੂੰ ਮੇਰੇ ਘਰੋਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਕੱਢੋ ਉਹ ਭਰਾਵਾ ਤੂੰ ਖੁਦ ਜਮਾਈ ਥੱਲੇ ਲਾਤਾ ਅਸੀਂ तुम्हारा थोड़ी तरह respect कर
अब से कहते हम चमार हैं
कब सिखाते कि हम चमार हैं
हम चमार हैं गर्व तो होनी चाहिए
हमें गर्व है कि हम जमालपुर में पैदा किए हैं और मुजफ्फरपुर की धरती से आते मेरा नाम चंदन जमाल है। हमें गर्व से बोलता हूँ मैं चंदन जमाल।
दास की अब से कहते हम
अब वक्त चमारों का है और चमार आगे बढ़ेंगे और जीतेंगे और हर एक पद पे जाएंगे, ये मेरा वादा है।
ये कहो कि
गर्व से कहो हम चमार हैं।
वो चल रहा है ट्रेंड है अब जाता हूँ नाम नहीं एक ब्रांड है हाँ भाई चमार कितने रह गए नजर झुका के शर्म से नहीं सर उठा के गर्व से कहो हाँ तुम बात कीजिए
गाना देखो मैंने यूट्यूब पे बहुत करोड़ों गाने सुना देते हैं आप पे सबके प्रतिमान का देखिए और सब जो है ना गाड़ी में भी गाना बजेगा गाना सुनो अंडवे मेरे कमारे सीता मुंह पे मारे हैं अंडवे काज बन के सीधी गोली तारे अंडवे मेरे कमारे राज दिखा दूं तन्ने यूपी ले जाके चंदो का राज दिखा दूं तन्ने यूपी ले जाके पता सके तो किस बात के सवाल भाई पता सके तो किस उनका तुम हो मेरा पैरी
मेरी जात महारू में भरोसा लगा कभी कभी नहीं मैं मेरी जात को छुपा कर महाजात में जब मेरा प्राउड है मुझे कभी गाने मेरी जात बाबा साइड पे बनाता है
मैं सब प्राउड है कि मैं इस बात में चल पे हम काम करते पूरा रात में छोड़े वाले में किया गया खड़े पॉइंट ऊपर पर देखूंगा तेरा रात मेरी सब की मतलब मैं भाई का काम तो बिकता है मैं से तुम्हारा के छोड़े वाली बात करने ले थोड़ी चली जाए बताऊं नहीं सारा तुम्हारा के छोड़े वाली बात करने ले
अम्बेडकर की फैमिली से बिलोंग करा ऊपर तक ही हाथ चढ़ा दे
I
सी बात तो हो, अगर तू भी जाटा है तो बेटे वो ताबड़तोड़ जय भीम हो। जय भीम।
जाटवनी हरियाणा की जाटों के दिल ने लेगी, आँख से आँख मिला के जाटों ने नंबर देगी। जहाज की
जय भीम।
जय भीम जाटव जी।
मेरे दिल को जाटवनी तू भाई, ये शेर के संग में जचे शेरनी, जाटव के संग जाटवनी, कोई जाटव के संग जाटवनी। मेरा तेरा ना कुछ साढ़े मखरम
है कोई चमार का छोरा नीले कुर्ते पजामे में जो तबाही उठा सके? जय भीम हो तो बता देना कमेंट बॉक्स में। जाओ और तो भी
सूट तेरा काला और रंग तेरा गोरा है, हम तो तेरे प्यार में पागल हो रहा है मैडम। वो यो वाल्मीकि का छोरा है। अर्जे कराली वाल्मीकि के जमात के मुंडे सिरा करुंदे आ।
मत मैं वाल्मीकि की गेंद पे ठोए प्यार से तेरे जिसे सूर मार देवानी कल करना है जाने के लिए सारे
मार दूंगा तुझे।
इससे क्या है, वाल्मीकियों के गैम में बैठना है घर से।
वाल्मीकियों की गैर बैठता हूँ घर से।
क्या कह रहा है?
फिर की जीना में वाली
22 का तो मुंह तो निकल गया।
वाल्मीकि की गेंद पे ठोए प्यार से तेरे जिसे सूर मार देवानी कल करना है जाने के लिए साथ के लग बसायो थोड़ा तुम्हारा का के रोटी पानी में कसीरी ओ सारा का यार की मिसाल पूरा एरिया तेरा समुद्र की साल दी बजा के बगैर साजा कराई साथ के लग बसायो थोड़ा तुम्हारा का के रोटी पानी में कसीरी ओ सारा का यार की
चले गए वो चमार तो शरीक थे, हम तो आग लगा देंगे क्षेत्र में।
अच्छा की छत आड़ देगी तेरे भीतर। और सुन चमार ये कह गया कटे लड़के में ले रहा हो ये भीम ये सलमान।
गंदे जोड़े जाट हो का रुतबा का बन, बाबा भीम राम के वंशज से हम। तेरा चमार की औलाद हूँ, चमार की डरना हमें किसी बात का। और उसका गर्व ना घमंड घमंड हमें अपनी जात का।
बंद बंद संड ज्यादा नहीं जाते ओके दे
सब लोग कह मैं चमार चमार ना धुरा न बिठाना चाहिए। और मैं कह रही हूँ पहले जैसे चमार ना साफ सफाई में पूजा ठाकर बड़ी जात को पीछे छोड़ा का चमार ने। और जब सुबह
तू सुपर ताल में चल के मंदिर रविदास देखिए, आकुड़ में बाबा से आकुड़ में बाबा की मूर्ति पे माथा देखिए। लखनऊ में पार्वती से मंदिर दिलवाने नोएडा के सेक्टर में कोठी तने दिलवाते जाटव। जेवर में जाटवनी तने जहाज में लाऊं बिठा के जाटव का राज दिखा दूं तने यूपी ले जाके। सुबह को चलने में मित्र जाटव हाथी के पाँव
बुरा तुम ही लोग मान जाते हो, SC/ST एक्ट लगवाने लगते हो।
So coming to the conclusion, so digital Dalit association is not only reactive but it's inventive in nature. Through performance in narratives and digital content on Instagram constructs vision of dignity, assertion of equality and reimagined history of the community. These expressions contribute to the broader anti-caste project even though they operate within caste continuing structures. The digital Dalit thus emerges as a complex category simultaneously registering, reworking and inhabiting caste in digital age. The shift is neither linear nor total, but it is marked with tension between resistance and reinforcement, negotiation with caste structures. Importantly, these transformations are increasingly mediated by digital and media spaces, which serves as a new arenas for the performance of negotiations of caste identities. And like from Ambedkarite coherence to the fragmented digital assertion, earlier it was a collective assertion, now it is coming as fragmented caste specific assertion, and it's between resistance and reconfiguration where we are fighting for the just a second, sorry. So when we from the digital Dalit, it talks about the resistance and the reconfiguration, how people earlier, like, I'm so sorry, give me a minute. My father is here and I was not, it was a surprise, so I'm sorry. So, the digital Dalit between resistance and reconfiguration, the emergence of digital platforms makes a significant shift in the history of Dalit assertion from alternative media to the networked, everyday and performative digital practices. The digital Dalit represents this transformation, a subject who is simultaneously resisting caste oppression and navigating its enduring institutions and norms. This chapter argues that digital media creates a counter-cultural space for Dalit assertion, enabling new forms of resistance, dignity and self-representation. At the same time, it reveals the persistence of caste as a structuring force, even within seemingly open and egalitarian digital environments. The central tension remains as we witnessing the expansion of Dalit emancipation or the intensification of caste through new modes of visibility. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think the presentation is real. I think kind of this topic where it is not only relevant but it also looks at exactly how it operates and how it functions. I think much to say and much to discuss and debate. I'm the least one to really comment as an expert on our studies in contemporary India, but I'm sure the audience have had good experience on the everyday life, how caste operates. So therefore, I'd like to start by giving time to the audience. Whoever wants to ask a question, whoever wants to comment, then please take the time. Kindly identify yourself, your name and also your affiliation. Yeah. Yes.
Thanks.
Sorry, I keep late. I can of course. What's the object of your study? Valmikis or Dalits or are you looking at caste amongst Dalits?
So, like when I started this thing, so I started with the Valmiki community particularly. But when I led to the digital space, it was difficult to have a total. Like I have mentioned this also. Like now in the digital space, there is no overall Dalit consciousness which we can see. It's more about caste specific in nature. That's why when I'm going to the digital field, I'm looking at the hashtags which are come under the Dalit sphere. But when I'm talking about in the second chapter, it's more about Valmikis. So my lens is specifically Valmikis, but to make it more reasonable and understanding how like Valmikis in the digital sphere are not acting in vacuum. As I showed the word cloud, when we talk about Valmikis, there's the discussion is also going to between Bhaichara, Jatau, Chamar, Valmiki, Chamar. So it's a combination of things like with the setting and the temporal setting is changes like.
Is there any reason why they don't use phrases like Bhangi, the phrases which we associate with Valmiki community? Because in almost all the videos you show, I did not come across even one where Bhangi, Chura, which are significantly lower in the Dalit caste hierarchy. So is there some reason for it?
So yeah, so on that, Bhangi and Chuda are the synonymous to the Valmiki, the same thing. So over the time of this caste discourse, the Dalit discourse, we are coming up with the new names. Like when you go to the Haryana, people identify themselves as Chamars, but in the new sense of understanding for the Chamars in UP is completely Jatau. And it's also complex in nature. Like you have seen this in video. On the palette, one side it's Jatau Sahab, on the other it was Chamar. But whereas some point of time they don't like it, they take it derogatory. In the same sense, Valmiki, the term Valmiki, it has been a way of bringing this Valmiki community, the Bhangi, the Chuda community to the Hindu fold. Otherwise, and they changed the name to the Valmiki because the Valmiki written the Ramayana and everything. Otherwise, in the Bhangi and Chuda are still used for the derogatory terms. That's why they are not using themselves, identifying themselves as Bhangi Chuda. They want it to be in the overall Hindu discourse, the part of that particular system. So that's it.
My name is Pramod Kumar. I am doing PhD from JNU. And congratulations, Raman. Finally, so I have one question. The first question is, Valmiki basically connected with the Hindu religion basically. So this is coming from the Ramayana, who wrote Ramayana. So what is the religious connection of this caste, this Valmiki caste, and that Valmiki basically? So from where that came basically? Because there is the community is, I think, one of the deprived community. So this is not having that significance, that basically importance what the Hindu religion must give. That is very humiliating, and they face a lot basically because of their occupation. So the first is that question. The second is you are in your title basically you are mentioning caste and Valmikis only, but in the last I have seen that you are also giving some space to Chamar also. So don't you think that you should change your title also?
Oh yeah, so this all right. So as I mentioned, I'm still working on the title, what it's gonna be. Till now I'm working with the ethnographic study of the Dalits for that matter. And this question has came up many times, like when I'm saying, for example, digital Dalit, but at the same point of time I'm saying hashtag Jatau, hashtag, this is a contradiction itself. So it's not possible to find a single identity as a Dalit identity. So they are combining. And as you said, the religious connection with the Valmikis and the Bhangi. So it is coming from the Ramayana, when the Ramayana started telecasting, and this whole discourse of Valmiki written it. And it is also, you will see when they have connected to the Valmikis, Valmikis as a Valmiki who written the Ramayana. But when it's about the celebrations, everyone celebrate the Hindu structure. People who are in the Hindu system, they'll celebrate Diwali. Ram came and everything. But when we go for the Valmiki Jayanti, this is the pseudo acceptance you will see the Hindu structure of the Valmikis. They have given the recognition of like being in the and there's this book like Deceptive Majority, how the majority was created and the Valmiki came up in the Hindu fold. So in this sense, it is just pseudo acceptance. Where no one you won't see upper caste in the Valmiki Jayanti celebrations, but Diwali everyone celebrates. So it's there is a religious connection because Valmiki written the Ramayana. Otherwise, the acceptance is very much on the like it's not beneath the level.
I have more questions.
Yeah, please.
You are talking about the sense of assertion basically.
Yeah.
So what are the external factors? What is basically the historical significance, historical reality? And assertion is basically we can divide between the privileged section and underprivileged also. Assertion is there also if we talk about but that has a different kind of say basically. So in context of you are talking about Chamar and Valmiki community, how that is shaped, how that is more radical, from why that is more radical.
The assertion you saying.
What are the external factors which are making, which are putting them in that stage that they are becoming more radical for asserting their identity basically. That is actually obviously that is against the or not in favor of anti-caste ethos and annihilation of caste. But from where that is coming?
So my theoretical framework says the way I'm looking at it, like they're looking for the recognition, and recognition comes with the self-respect, self-esteem, and the confidence. And you don't get it from your own people; you get it from outside. So that's where this sense of assertion coming, and this sense of assertion has this problem, like they are looking for the recognition without the resources. As you said, the class come and the outsider factors, but you'll see these assertions, you'll see this young girl, very young kid in some village area and making reels. So this digital media is giving the assertion, a sense of assertion like in the just one-sided like recognition, but they are not having resources. When we hear songs of the dominant caste, any Punjabi song, Jet di Jameen, Jet di Ladai, Jet the Tractor, Goli, they have the resources and they are asking for the recognition. But when we are talking about Dalits, Valmiki for that matter, they are working in the NDMC and still they are like, we are Valmiki, we have muscle power, we have money power. How it is like, this is like a sense of assertion like this, it happens. And if you go through the some more digital media, these external factors for that matter, these people are mainly coming from the lower state of the like people who are engaged in that. But people who are educated from this guy Anup Kumar, if you'll hear his songs, the fight against the caste is in different senses rather than being in the Brahmanical structure. So these are external factors. Education, class obviously will matter when you are going to assert your identity in any realm for that matter.
There is a division in Haryana, OSC and DSC.
Hear from others also? Yeah, you can continue.
Last question, sir. OSC and DSC. So how you have analyzed that situation in Haryana?
I have not. My field was not Haryana. I started with it.
Valmiki and Chamar basically.
I'm looking in Delhi. My physical field was in Delhi.
Okay.
Valmikis of Delhi, how they have been treated as in particular works for how they have been ghettoized, and how this Dalit identity, the Chura, the Valmiki identity, they carry themselves in the everyday routine. And also, then I'm moving to the digital realm. I'm not moving to the Haryana for that. I started with that, but I'm concentrated more towards the urban space in Delhi and digital space. Yeah.
Thanks, Raman. I have lots and lots of comments. I mean, I think it's, let me say the good things first. I think, I know you've been very, very invested in at least part of this project. I think it's very important because all these things that are happening, I think we need to document them, talk about them. So I think it's extremely important. I think your initial project also is very important. This whole idea of the move from rural to urban, and subsequently you are going on to this urban to digital. I think this whole question of caste identity in the urban context is something which is overall understudied, and particularly I think in the context of Dalit castes and communities. So I think you haven't fully presented your material from your
thesis.
the study in the neighborhood. I think I would be very interested in that also, because I think there is not much of that. In fact, I think at some point you said when you were making your earlier review of your thesis, you were saying that there's been a lot of study of caste, but it's all study of the Dalits. I mean, I think you may want to revisit that, because I don't think that's either true or I mean, it's you could say that there have been particular kinds of studies of Dalits and all, but it's not true that that's the only kind of study that has been there. In fact, I think there is a need for a lot more studies than have happened, and maybe different kinds of studies than have happened. But there's so many studies of so many different castes. And I don't think there's enough actually. I've worked on denotified communities who are also like a very marginal set of groups, and there are not enough studies. There are hardly any studies, and some of them also identify with Dalits and so on. There's a kind of overlap and all. So I think it's not easy to come by good studies of such groups who are at the margins. So rethink that. I think because you began with this whole idea of caste, as you're studying caste in rural urban areas. So I think we need to have a better sense of what you think your study is contributing. I think you made some broad generalizations, but probably you need to be much more, because there's so much happening here, So I think your arguments need to be more grounded in your findings, then be presented in very general terms. Otherwise, all this rich material that you've collected and in different domains, you won't be doing justice to that if you don't use the specifics to sort of advance your argument. And that's something I found missing also with your presentation, because so you have this series of of course a lot of methodological aspects, theory, etc., what kind of framework you are using, but really I think how you are using this empirical data to then inform your arguments, that is somewhat missing, So I think the two should be like more closely presented. So it won't be, for instance, how like in a presentation hall like this, you can show the videos, but you can't do that in your thesis, right? So how will it translate into a thesis? That's really like at this pre-sub seminar, that's a critical question, because we are at this stage now that it has to really be a bound and done work. So all this is very, I think it's very evocative in a presentation kind of thing, but when you put it in a written format, how, apart from those, what are they called? Clouds?
Word clouds.
Word clouds. I mean, how else is it going to be presented in your thesis? We haven't got that flavor from your presentation, like, so with hundreds and thousands of reels and so on. So what kind of analysis, other than this kind of, you can say, quantitative software-based analysis, what other kind of analysis are you undertaking? Because I think it's very complex. The things that you are showing are very, very complex. They are not, I don't think they can easily be sort of, lead to one or the other kind of generalization. Also, what I noticed, that a lot of these different things that you put together, and we've seen some of this before also, seems to be about things which are actually happening in the real world. It doesn't seem like a reel of the kind that people make a reel just for the reel, right? It seems like these are like big rallies or public events, and which people have captured and then maybe also shared on Instagram. But it's not just for digital purposes, it's something happening, right? And so also things like the Dalit music, I mean those have a life outside of these Instagram reels. And you did say, to be fair, that these two things are not separable. So I think there's how do we really make sense of what is going on and what is really digital in all of this? I think there is a lot more unpacking which would be needed. I know it's a thesis, you need to submit all of that, but somewhere I think there's a lot more teasing of things apart, what is really going on in this world, who are these people. So I think that somewhere we're not able to fully make sense of that, like though we can see something very major is really happening, and how do we so that would be a contribution. But I'm worried whether you'll be able to bring it through the thesis, because here we can see the visual, there we won't be able to see the visual. How will you bring it out in the thesis? Because thesis is still a written document, it's not like a documentary film which counts, as a so are there any experiments that you're thinking of? You don't expect people to actually go and watch all those things when they read your thesis. So this is one of the major concerns I have. And I think about some of these arguments also, when you are making this idea that it's more from collective to individual, I'm not so sure, even from what I'm seeing, because it seems that there is a lot of it seems like a big gathering, some of it may be individual. So I don't think you should jump to that conclusion without telling us why you get to that conclusion. So I think that is some of those kind of conclusions might need to be revisited. I'm also thinking we don't see much of in academic writing, in thesis writing, we need to also relate our findings to existing ways of understanding, right? So maybe because it's a presentation, maybe you've not done that, but your work would need to have to be more in dialogue with other work on Dalits, or whatever are the seminal works on Dalits, on Valmikis. For one, I think people like immediately, even if you've done your fieldwork in Delhi, I think Shalini Grover has also done fieldwork.
I met her in the same
place.
Yeah, we have worked at the same place, so yeah.
And Pauline Kolenda has written on the chudas, earlier, not from Delhi, but so what is this? How do you dialogue those works? These are just one or two, but I'm sure there are many others. There are, I think, even Malvika Kardekar has this older, or not Malvika Kardekar, what is her name? I remember there are people who have written on this sweeper communities and gender roles, this whole idea, the economy of, one of the earlier things that you said was about they are all into this is a one locality, and they're all into this government jobs, and it's a very important sort of way in which certain communities become part of a modern economy, but still retains its caste identity, and also has an interest in retaining that. Even though it perpetuates caste, you still don't want to let it go because that's the only thing you have. So you see in many localities, there's a very, you guard your job very strongly, even if it's not a government job, there is this idea that this is the area where I work and nobody else can work here, even if this work is so stigmatized and so on. So I like the fact that you've done this age-wise thing, in fact, I mean, yes, I teach this. I'm glad I was looking for you people. I've become the class and there were. So, yeah. So, this age thing is very interesting, and if not now, but I think you should make more of this generational changes. That I think that's a very important, way in which you're doing it. Maybe it could have been done more systematically, but still, the fact that you're doing it is, I think, I find it very important. But then this thing somewhere that how this hasn't really translated into a kind of empowerment. Like I see your third and fourth generation really being jobless, without education and all of that. So I think those are also important things that you need to address. I mean, this digital Dalit is very exciting. I know. You are. It's very sort of, for the want of a better, it's very sexy. It's very, it really, it's very catchy and all. Good. I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but don't leave all of that out of your thesis. I think that's very critical also. And then I think somewhere how it might be very interesting to know how do people actually look at all this, reverse the kind of gaze. I know I'm talking a lot, but can I just say, when I was doing my work on the Béteille community and also there are those are again communities on which a lot of this, there's a lot of media interest, capture it on the media. It's like in the traditional old times at least, it's a kind of scoop if you can get the image, and it's very sensational and all. So the question, and this was a suggestion Veena Das gave me long ago, and she said, now you should see how do these people see that, what is there. So we see them through all this. So partly now this is all changing with the fact that people are making their own reels and all, because it's not that conventional media. That's the difference. Social media is more democratic and so on. But still, the thing is not everybody is doing it, and particularly it's an age thing, right? It's a young people or whatever. Some of them didn't look so young. So how are people looking at this, and do they see this as really like assertion on their part, or is something else? So I just wonder, there's so much more you could say from the material that you have. It's a challenge to tie it up, but I think you need to do a better job of doing that.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Maybe now, maybe later. And one thing in terms of the technicalities, ideally at the pre-sub seminar, your title should be fixed. You can't change your title after pre-sub seminar. That's the, a better, I wanted to say this because everybody should know this. Because this is it's a kind of legal requirement for submission, and it has to be in the thesis title. I don't know how we'll work around it, but your supervisor should have advised you. I think we need to advise him that your title needs to be final before you make a presentation here.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's a bit of something I'm a little worried about how we'll handle that. But a lot of these other things we can talk on also. But I think it's very interesting. It's very relevant. You should do a lot more with it.
Thanks so much. So.
I think there are many questions coming up. We will collect.
I think maybe he wants to comment to my long.
Can I?
Yes.
So, on the few things like you said about the analysis, on that thing, so I'm analyzing it. I'll start with I'm analyzing quantitatively, then proving my point through the quantitative data, why I'm choosing these particular hashtags, and then I'm doing the discourse or sentiment analysis of the reels which I have seen. Like for example, just 2 paragraphs, like when I was choosing for the hashtag, how I have these hashtags, I'm gonna use in my thesis. Like for hashtag Chamar, there are 5,78,000 posts with this hashtag, and the table shows the highest number of likes across 8 lakhs, and the first 60 posts have more than 1 lakh likes each. While looking at the number of comments, highest at 50,000, and for more than 350 posts, number of comments are in 3 digits. For hashtag Jatov, this has been the highest post with 1.5 million on Instagram, and the highest number of likes for Jatov surprisingly is touching 12 lakhs, whereas around 100 plus posts have more than a lakh likes per post, and around 400 posts have likes exceeding 10,000. In this section, looking at the number of comments, highest is exceeding 1 lakh. So that's how I'm using it in words, and then by seeing like
that will convey a very different picture than what you are showing, no? So how will you make arguments from there?
Okay, I'll
you have
do
to
that.
keep that in mind.
As you said, guard your job. There's this study where Valmiki and Chamars, they fight across. Like Valmikis don't like when Chamars are looking for the same job. So yeah, this in Valmikis by themselves, they guard their job. Like this is our job, this is our sector. Why you are coming into that particular area? And we'll talk and I'll tell you more. Like yes.
Thank you so much, André, for the meaningful insights. My name is Sumit, and I'm a PhD scholar from AUD. I have got a question, but I'll ask 2 and 3 questions, which are timely and this. First, I want to ask, please identify and some briefly tell about what is your personality and what kind of challenges you have faced when you are writing upon the Valmiki communities basically. And the second question is, when you are talking about Dalit in contemporary India, so when we understand that Dalits, there is a gender roles also. So what is about women? What kind of videos and what data, what the methodology you have, talking about? Little bit gap. There is a what is basically about gender roles. There was women, the condition of women. As we know, there is a rural area that the Valmiki community is living in a village, but they shifted from the urban spaces. What kind of challenges they face, especially the women context? Please a little bit tell about that. What they are the social status. What about the education? What kind of challenges they face? The stigma, what they face in the village. What kind of stigma, which is same in urban spaces, or it is slightly different from others.
Sorry, come again lastly.
What kind of stigma what the Valmiki or the Jatov face in the village when they have shifted from the urban space? So what kind of stigma they have? But how did change from with the bit of time? And I think this is my question.
One small point, sorry. See you calling your this thing digital Dalit or Dalit, but nowhere in their self-presentation this Dalit word is being used.
Yeah.
So I think you have to be careful because they seem to be. If it is really about identity, I think you're using a term which they are not using is going to be a little bit of an issue, in my opinion, because they really seem to be rejecting it in some sense because there are all these other words or identities which they are embracing or saying that we are proud to be this, proud to be that. So then where is Dalit in this? That becomes like very much a external identity. So how do you handle that?
Should I answer all this question? Puneet, yeah, please.
So, thank you, Raman, for the very good presentation. Because all studies, at least contemporary studies on scheduled caste, have been on scheduled caste oppression, infirmities that scheduled caste faces in everyday life. But yours is a study on social, so thank you very much. First question is basically, what do you mean by Dalit? So what exactly is Dalit? Second point is, it's not so much a question, but like suggestion कि have you tried looking at this whole concept from Kaufman's pedagogy, or have you looked at it from performance of what is Dalit good and so on and so forth? So my point is, although the work is amazing and we put in a lot of work, especially on assertion, I think it could be theorized a little better, or at least you could mention the theoretical elements that you used and also other work, contemporary work that has been on this. That's all that I want to say. And yeah, Dalit identity versus caste identity, and ma'am just talked about it right now, so that I think that is one issue. But last question is, what do you mean by reification of identity? That is one question I wanted to know. And yeah, lastly, assertion of caste identity has always been there, I would argue, not only right now, by scheduled caste also. Even before the digital space, I remember my grandmother used to write wall writings of not Ambedkar or whatever. In fact, she rejects Ambedkar, but she writes Madiga as a caste name. So yeah, that is there. She writes it on the wall. So that is one thing. Then I would also like to argue that Dalit identity was always fragmented. There is no Ambedkarite coherence. But yeah, reification and what is Dalit? These are the
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Because so I have actually, congratulations first of all. I mean, it's very interesting digital ethnography also. So I have 3 or 4 questions actually. So the first question is, what happens if we, if I change the word digital Dalit to digital queer?
Okay.
Will things change? Like, because when we're trying to talk about this kind of digital assertion, for instance, I mean, if you just change the identity, then will substantially will it change things? So that's one question. The second question essentially is that when we adding to what Puneet is asking, that when we're trying to think about sociologizing something, we need to historicize always. So, and as he's saying that when he talks about his grandmother, and if you think about the Dalit Panthers, for instance, if you think about caste hostels, if you think about caste associations, those were also kinds of assertions because there was no digital space that time. So how do we, is there any sort of continuity, is there any sort of, if you historicize then what happens, for instance? So that's the second question. The third question is an empirical question, which is essentially who funds these things? Because the first conclusion when you said that when we try to think about these kinds of assertions, they are imaginative. I would also say that they're imitative. Because all castes now have these kinds of things, isn't it? So when we're trying to think about, the imitation part, because that's one of the things also which takes us back to Professor Srinivas, because when we try to think about sanitation, that's also, sort of reference group theory and all of those things. So that's one question, that's one very important question, because then is it only reactive, is it only assertion, is it also, as you're saying, not always reactive, but also very importantly imitative, because all communities now, if you look at the digital space, the Brahmin is also asserting, the Dalit is also asserting, for instance. And so related to this question, the question is that when we have these kinds of assertions, have you noticed any sort of violence? Because even today, if I read the newspaper, today's newspaper has the news that somewhere in Madhya Pradesh, a Dalit groom was beaten up because he chose to, with dignity, he wanted to marry, so he was riding a horse. So the point is that when these collectivities get together, is there any sort of violence? I mean, physically or in the digital space? I'll stop.
Yeah, thank you. So starting from like violence, as you said, violence is happening or not. So and Brahmins are also, but this assertion from the Dalits was not I have noticed it is coming in the digital sense. It's more unapologetic in nature. They are not being feared of the dominant caste in that sense, which was earlier the case, because there was no anonymity. People were in the same areas, they were physically available. So that assertion from the physical field that differentiate from to the digital field, because there is no I can post from anywhere. You can't just at the same spot you can't do the violence or other things. And who funds these things, and like, so these they are not like, it's not about funding, they are doing it by themselves, and they take themselves as also mini influencers. If you'll see their comments, their even their followers, it's in lakhs. So they for them there is no funding, like there's not outside funding. These people are, as I said, this is autonomous or self-created identity. They are just asserting themselves for themselves by themselves. It is not some story. If you'll say Article 15 or any movie for that matter, we'll see there are some Dalits who are saved by some dominant caste. In these scenarios, in digital scenarios, they are very unapologetic, very to the masculinity, very to the fight, to the protest and everything. So this kind of assertion is completely different from the earlier kind of discussion we had. And you asked about some about the my positionality and challenges. So I myself, I come from a Dalit community. I come from Chamar community, and when I started my project, I was thinking, why, like many people ask me why not to read my own community, because they are also a part of Dalit community. But you have seen over the period of time, it was just Chamars who have come forward to the education sectors. Now, like for example, leather workers. Chamar has the thing of leather workers, but now you have Mufti, Adidas and everything. That occupation has changed, and they had this education and they come forward. But no one is ready to take the work of sanitation. Even today, when Sulabh Shauchalaya, I was talking about the NDMC, that was a government sector. But when we talk about Sulabh Shauchalaya, the person who's sitting outside that with 5,000, I've interacted with people, they are Valmiki only. So this is why I'm choosing, and my positionality. In that sense, I am just looking at, like, it's not just about I'm writing about everyone just saying like, why not simple, specific, single caste. In my perspective, I'm writing understanding different caste, but somewhere I see themselves as part. When you see from the upper dominant caste, they see themselves one single category. Only like if you talk about Dalits, all we know is Chuda, Chamar. Also other after then Bhansfor, Mehetar, Musahar, and there are Pasi, Gadaria. We don't know about these. So when I'm talking about the caste Dalit, when I'm saying Dalit, it's comprising different caste. I know it's comprising different caste, Jatau, Chamar and everything, but somewhere they are creating single identity somewhere. That's why I'm saying it digital Dalit. And so my positionality when I was in the field, like people asked me, what do you like, which caste? And there's two interactions I'll tell you. The first was like this lady, she was cleaning, and I'm also incorporating the gender, also the gender thing. This lady, she was cleaning the road, and there was this Valmiki Jayanti. She asked me, "Kaun si jaat ke ho?" The same Manjeet Sarkar. And I have this habit of asserting myself, maine ka Chamar. But she didn't like it. She didn't like it. She wanted me to, how can you say Chamar? It should be Jatau. So my positionality, then I tried to navigate it by not telling, maybe, because the other discussion, when being a Chamar, you going to the Valmiki community, the first question arises, आप लोग तो आगे निकल गए हैं, हम लोग रह गए हैं. So that thing I somehow navigated over the time, and there are many instances. And in the beginning, as you said, how it is impacting gender. So the Brahminical, the patriarchal norms is same for the Dalits also. The gender, the women are also like being discriminated. Like you must have read it maybe. Like Dalit women are double jeopardized by being women and being Dalit. So it's coming out of that, like, and reification, Puneet. Reification, you take it. Yeah. Yeah.
और शोरा वाल्मीकि का गाना एक है बैद का, आपने वो भी ऐड नहीं.
It was 20 minutes. I somehow made it to 11 minutes. So yeah, they mentioned. So on reification, when I was showing the reification, it shows, like you have seen, SC की होके भी ज़्यादा सुंदर हूँ. The beauty standards, the reification. How जाटव क्या जाटव के संग जाटव नहीं. So how come like these marriage norms? So that's how the reification of caste among Dalits. That's what I'm trying to tell. Like, and, oh yeah, Dalithood. So when I'm talking about Dalithood, I'm saying like when in an urban sector and when you are expecting anonymity, but somewhere like chuda chamar, you feel it, you get it. So that's Dalithood for yourself. You can't define it, you get it like. So that's simplest.
I would probably use another word, but I understand what you're saying.
So
So my question is basically from your fourth chapter.
yeah.
You have also mentioned that in digital ethnography, the part public and private dilemma is very much important, right? I mean, anything which is public but can be personal or private to someone. So it is because not clear for me. I mean, how you have given this ethical consideration of public and private. Because I mean, what specific tool you have used in the just collecting data from Instagram?
So I used two extensions. One is GSchumer and another is API console, and you'll get many things in that particular programs like hashtag scraper, Instagram profile scraper, and many other things. And these are different, like they work on different methods using the public and private. As you said, when I use GSchumer for thousands of things, it only will analyze which are like meant to be public in nature. The private profiles and anything, it won't count by the Excel sheets I showed you. Yeah.
Public, but can you be personal or private? So have you taken consent from every person who are posting or
No.
posting reels or statements?
Yeah. So I have seen like thousands of reels, so I couldn't take the permission from everyone. So that's how people, as I mentioned, people who have like you use Instagram, they're like, please reshare, please reuse, remix. The people who are advancing these kind of things, that they want it to reach to the public spaces, these are the things I am bringing to the discussion, not some private profiles or something, not like that. Like.
So do you think that researchers' positionality in digital ethnography is also important, and what was your positionality doing digital ethnography?
So my positionality, like I said, it helped me as I was not present in the face to face with these people. So my positionality, or like what if I'm coming from which community, it was not hampering the other thing, the other person. I was just looking at my screen and analyzing how they are acting. So that particular sphere, can you see when I'm going to the Basti, so me going there will make some differences to their attitude. Their yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But in the digital, it helped me being unobserved. So my positionality doesn't hamper it, because I was not changing the scenario. They were doing their performance, they were commenting and everything without me being checking it or not.
You are not taking consent.
Yeah. But I'm looking forward to, as Anuja ma'am also said, I'm looking forward to like this project is more about how Dalits perceive and experience Dalit identity and how they assert. But I would want to move further to see going back to the field, how other upper caste people, they perceive these reels, because this anti-caste is also going. So this is how I want to go to the physical field again for my next project somewhere.
Thank you, Raman. I have few small questions. First, several questions that you take in your presentation, there is a Dalit assessment and then there is a reconfiguration of the caste. So, because in this, as a process from assertion to reconfiguration, do you also make conceptual differentiation between caste assertion and casteism? Because that's what everyone is actually telling. So if casteism, like caste assertion, do you make that difference? And secondly, when you differentiate different sectors of the age, you say that the youngest they are the most assertive. So is that all the youth of that community, all of them are assertive, or if some youth of that community, or even some families, they are assertive, and if they are, like you observe that spec, but then how are they getting assertive? What are the major influences that are allowing them to become assertive? And third, when you talk about digital digital home, digital identity. So, so one thing is that outer observation that there are Jadavs, Chamars, Valmikis, and then you can talk to the content creator. So there is also a market of social media. So it is, so when you say that there is physical and digital are co-constitute to each other, but then digital is also forcing you to do something. So it is not only the physical that is actually manifested in the digital, but there is a digital market. So if you talk to the content creators, that can, so that's a suggestion.
So I like this, the differentiation I would like to the caste accession and casteism, and I would like to mention it, but I haven't explained it in my thesis yet, but I would like to mention this one. And as you said, market of social thing, social media. So there is this particular, many profiles, but this particular profile, Neeraj Chamar. This is very labor, this is a labor person who's doing some small work, and this reel where he's showing AdSense, Google AdSense he came. So yeah, obviously this, that's why I'm saying these are the performances they are doing, and it can't be, I won't say it's really somewhere trying to protest maybe. It can be likely to, as you said, like materiality of the social media, which is making them to act in particular manner because they would want to be the part of discourse so that they can get something out of it. And if all of the categories, all of the people, they were same or not. So when I was in the physical field, these young people, as I said, their experience of caste will affect their understanding of caste. And in this 21st century, their experience of caste is not as rudimentary as it was earlier. But I won't say everyone has the same kind of assertion like others. But when I moved, this 15 to 30 people, like 15 to 30 age group people, they were in my physical field who were from just Valmiki community who was staying there. But when I brought these categories to the digital medium, the whole population changed. Now I have this assertion kind of people can be from many reasons. Earlier this was the small thing. So this assertion has changed to the two fields. So it's very difficult to say. I won't say everyone in the Valmiki Basti was assertive, but I can say on digital media there's many big population of the Valmiki and Jato community who are assertive in nature.
And one last thing. So when you are searching on digital media, you are searching Jato, Valmiki. So how are you locating them in Haryana and Delhi? So because digitally it can be from.
But algorithmically, if you'll search things and if you'll use, so you'll get the idea. And they, if you'll use DSchool, they'll give you which location they are going. And algorithm mostly, if you'll see all the reels, I have not searched for North India or something. These are somewhere geographical. My geographical location will gonna hamper my algorithm. So these are, there was some from Maharashtra, but otherwise it's mostly UP and Haryana. So
I have one doubt that I will ask in JP Star.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Raman, I think